This is Dream Chasers, episode 36, with Rebecca Stirm. Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Adam Carswell, and welcome to Dream Chasers, Interviews with the Future. On Dream Chasers, we interview individuals with supernatural amounts of potential based on early success in their careers. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's get straight to the interview. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? This is your host, Adam J. Carswell. And I got me Lee sis Rebecca Stirm, Pondeline, the jungle girl that make them leather bags them. Rebecca, thanks for being on the show. And do you have any opening remarks for our listeners?
My number one opening remark is that Adam Carswell should never, ever talk Creole, ever.
Oh, that's great. I felt like I was doing so good too.
Oh man, we got to work on that. We got to work on it.
Okay, well, you have to bust out a little bit for us on the show.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll answer one question in Creole if that makes you happy.
Yeah, we have to do that. So, and guys, for the record, Rebecca lives in Roaring Creek, Belize. Actually, yeah, Becca, can you tell us a little bit about just your life background, where you come from, where you live, where you grew up, that kind of thing?
Okay, so I'm born and raised in Belize, Central America, to two North American parents. My dad's American, my mom's Canadian. They moved here in the 80s, met here, got married here, and the rest is history. Myself and my siblings have all been born here and raised in a little village not far from the capital city. We grew up with bush, so I guess forest, on two sides of our house, and just kind of grew up like normal village kids here in Belize. Yeah.
So, with all that being said, Rebecca also has her own business. She's been running for, at least as far as I know, this particular business for a few years now. You can kind of share that with us on this question. But how long have you been running Twig and Pearl, Becca?
So Twig and Pearl, I launched 3 years ago at the end of 2015, December 2015 for me. And where I was 2 years ago, that first year in business in comparison to what we're doing now is totally different. But it's been a lot of growth and 3 years of definitely a lot of building and kind of carving our own way through an industry that did not even exist here otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And I know before Twig and Pearl, you had already gotten your hands into the fashion industry. I think you were even on some pretty popular reality TV shows throughout the Caribbean. So can you share with us a little bit about that experience?
Okay, so initially, I was completely convinced that I was going to be a fashion designer and go, design collections in New York or something under a namesake label. But at about 18, I got pulled on, after finishing fashion school, I got pulled on to this Caribbean reality TV show, kind of like the Caribbean version of Project Runway. Mm-hmm. And I competed, came in second runner-up, and I felt like I did really well. And it was great and all, but doing that show was part of what made me realize that maybe fashion wasn't for me. For the following about 2 or 3 years, I continued working in fashion. I was designing custom women's wear, designing collections every year, doing shows. I showed a few collections internationally, and it was great, but I felt like I was honestly contributing to this system of create new things, buy new things, and just kind of one-time wear pieces. So high fashion evening gowns and dresses that were going to be worn once and then put into a closet and eventually end up in a landfill. And I felt like I was kind of contributing to this monster of fast fashion that I realized I did not want to be a part of. So that was kind of where I decided to pull back and rethink what I wanted to do with my life and how I could align the work that I do every day with my values and my passion for care for the environment and making sure that things are sustainable in the long run, where our materials are coming from, and also where these pieces I'm designing are returning to in the long run, making sure that that's a sustainable circle, that they'll come from nature and return to nature. So I kind of brainstormed for a while. I took 6 months off, actually almost a year off, where I just kind of worked a small job and didn't do much, totally pulled back from fashion and thought and rethought what I wanted to do with my life that would make an impact, that would change things, and that would be a business that would create something positive and have a positive impact on the environment instead of a negative one. Hence my launching of Twig and Pearl.
That's pretty cool. And I did not know that. I guess I was curious as to why there was a transition or why there was a change, because I was in Belize, moved back to the U.S. Right at the turn of 2014, 2015. So that's when you were still designing clothing. And so I'm like, oh, wow, she must have changed her mind. Now it's great to know why you did it.
Definitely changed her mind, yes.
So now that you've been running Twig and Pearl for almost 4 years now. At what point did you realize that this was something that you wanted to take to the next level?
About 8 to 10 months into the business. I think I initially started it with a really cool idea and a big dream, right? I mean, starting by myself in a small design studio I was renting, well, still I'm renting from my parents. I had this idea of this big company that someday we'd grow into. And so every step along the way in the beginning, how I set things up, how I planned for how we were going to hire people and train people and all of that, I tried to set those steps up in the beginning to make sure that we'd have potential to someday grow into this large, influential company that I want to be. But it wasn't, when you're sitting there every day in the studio alone, dreaming and making leather handbags on your own, you don't really begin to feel like it's going to become something. It starts to kind of feel a little bit drudgerous and day to day, like, oh my God, what am I doing? But about 10 months to a year into the business, I made a major decision that this is not going to be a little thing. I do not want to be an artisan sitting in a studio making handbags. I want to be the CEO of a big handbag company that is doing things ethically, treating their employees so well, creating this great company culture, creating a sustainable circle from production and sourcing of our materials to the end of how we reupholster our pieces, and then to the very, very end of how the pieces return back into the environment at the end of their life. That I want to create this big thing, and it's not going to be me sitting in a studio alone making handbags like an artisan. I do not want to be an artisan. I want to be a game changer. I want to be a CEO. I want to be that woman, you know?
Heck
and
yeah.
So at that point was where I was like, you know what? I need to start hiring people on, and I need to start thinking like a businesswoman instead of thinking like an artist. And that was where the huge change for me happened, is when I switched my mindset to businesswoman. And it's been upward growth ever since then. I launched the website. I hired people on, trained them from scratch. And we have this really great tiny team of just 3 of us now. We fully supply our whole website. We ship internationally and locally. And it's starting to become, on a very small scale right now, the idea and the vision that I pictured that it would be someday.
Yeah. And you just mentioned real quick, you ship internationally. That's a huge step for any Belizean business,
Yeah.
at least from, what I can observe when I live there. Shipping anything in or out of the country is no easy task just because of the way things are structured. So I have to say that's impressive. And how did you build that relationship with whoever you're shipping with? How does that process kind of take place?
So I think living in a small country like Belize, we don't have a lot of systems in place for small businesses to get started selling online. It's honestly something that not many people are doing still here. We sell online locally, and we'll sell resort and tour bookings online internationally. But actually selling a Belizean handmade product internationally and shipping it, that's kind of something that was not being done before.
Right.
So
you just mentioned how you want to be a game changer. I think that's it right there.
And it's funny that a lot of the conversations I've had with a lot of entrepreneurs and artists, we talk about, how everything that you want to do here, you have to start from scratch. There's no path already carved that you can follow. There's no step-by-step instructions of how to make it in a certain industry. We are a super, super young country. We are fresh when it comes to everything to do with entrepreneurship, business. Our economy is just so little and just growing. Everything has to be carved out by hand individually, any career path. And so especially as a woman, it really has to be carved out, because there hasn't been women who've done a lot of the things that myself and other young female entrepreneurs that I know are doing. And so it's you carving this out on your own. And so every connection that you want to make, every system that needs to be in place, you have to push individually for that to happen. So even our online payments, how to get that set up, all of these things, those systems were not in place for small businesses. So I had to really, really push personally to make sure that those would be put in place for me to actually run my business online and to sell online. And then I had to actually kind of begin to educate my customers on the fact that we can shop online. And it was kind of a whole re-education thing, even for our local market, that yes, you can shop online and pay online and have it shipped to you. It's kind of a new concept for here just because it wasn't something that was in place and happening before, right?
Right. Yeah. Everything in Belize is still very cash driven. So I'm sure even your first few customers were like, are you sure about this? Like, I don't know if I want to buy it online.
Exactly. Whereas now we do a good 90% of our sales online. The other 10% is what we do like in person in like our smaller like pop-up shop events or like a little shopping night, that kind of thing. And then even on those events that we actually do in-person shopping, we're swiping all of our customers through with their credit cards and debit cards. So we're still not even doing cash anymore. So it's really great to see that step for Little Belize. Everyone's starting to shop more online and use more virtual purchasing options instead of, handing cash around.
Yeah. And I heard you mention earlier, this is a question more so for all the gringos tuned in. You said something about we can go on your website and check out resort options and travel options, something like that.
No, not on no. I was pointing out that that's what people were selling online.
Oh, gotcha. I was like, okay, you can get a leather bag and a nice trip to Cocoa Beach.
No. Like basically the only thing you'd be able to book online in Belize and purchase online in Belize would be a tour or a trip.
Yeah.
You weren't able to purchase products made in Belize online and just have them shipped to your door. So that was kind of somewhere we kind of had to carve our own little road through, right?
Yep. Trailblazing.
Exactly.
All right, Rebecca. So what industry leaders and role models would you say that you're inspired by?
Okay, so there's these two specific brands that I actually follow very, very closely. And it's not so much that I love their products, because I absolutely love their products, but it's that I love the people behind their products. So this one handbag brand I follow really closely is Nena & Co. They're a artisan handbag brand made in Antigua, Guatemala.
If anyone wants to check them out, real quick, how do you spell that?
Nena & Co. Nena. Nena & Co.
Gotcha. Okay.
They're so excellent. They are very, very careful in making sure that all of their work is done fair trade, and that they're contributing to the lives of the artisans that make their handbags. So I love that about them, because that's one value that we really carry strongly at Twig and Pearl. And then another handbag brand that I follow very closely and have actually now kind of become friends with is Urban Southern. They're based out of Tennessee, and I love them because both Meg and Regina come from a Mennonite background and come out of that and kind of become fashion girls. And it's so beautiful to watch how they've blossomed and to follow their brand and hear them tell their story. And I've actually had the opportunity of kind of going back and forth a little bit with Meg on Instagram, direct messaging, and just kind of being inspired by them and inspiring them, like us. We've had great back and forths, and that's been like, I look up to them so much. So to actually be in conversation with them, that everything they make is sustainably sourced, and they're so careful that all of their pieces will last forever, and that they're contributing positively to the fashion industry. I love that about them. And we carry a lot of the same values in supporting women and uplifting women. And so both of those brands I follow really carefully and closely and respect highly.
Yeah. And you said she came from a Mennonite background?
Yeah, a Mennonite background, which is so cool.
Her name again?
Because I have so many Mennonite friends here. And so I feel that personal connection with them, right?
Yeah. Well, so a couple questions. First, what was her name again?
Meg Delagrange and Regina. I'm not sure Regina's last name, but they're Urban Southern, and that's in Tennessee. They ship internationally.
Oh, okay. So are they from Belize originally?
Oh, no. I follow them online. They are.
Okay.
It's a brand that I look heavily up to, and I respect so much, and have had a little bit of personal connection with online with them.
Gotcha. I ask because, weirdly enough, there is a Mennonite presence in Belize. I think a lot of people listening might not know that. So I did want to kind of bring that to light. Yeah. That's a different community.
Yeah.
So Becca, where do you see yourself in 3 years, I guess personally and with your business? Okay,
3 years. Over the last 8 months that I've been seeing a life coach, and setting some more concrete goals and trying to build habits towards reaching those goals, I've really been able to kind of fine tune and sift through everything around me to choose where we want to be, who exactly we want to be, and what I want to be doing in 3 years. So I love this question. Honestly, in 3 years, we want to be fully moved into our own new studio space that we've already started building. And I would love to have increased our workforce and built up to be able to employ, more than just 2 artisans, but to employ maybe 8 to 10 women working in our studio, hand making the bag. And we want to at least have doubled our website size. And I'm hoping to have at least tripled our purchase scale. So the amount of purchases that people are making from our website, I want to have at least tripled in 3 years. Personally, I see myself starting a family at that point. One of the main reasons why I wanted to own my business and wanted to start Twig and Pearl and be an entrepreneur is because I wanted to be able to work and be very independent while still raising my family. Mm-hmm. And so my fiance and I, we've been together for 10 years this year. And
you gotta give him a quick shout out, by the way.
Right. We're actually getting married closer to the end of this year. And it's been such a long journey for me being with him and planning all this time, how I'm going to go about business, the values that I want to set up in my life and in my business so that someday I could have and raise the family that I want to and be a mom. I absolutely want to be a mother as well as a businesswoman. I want that balance in my life. I don't want to just be businesswoman or just be mother. So in every area of the business, the way we've launched things and planned things, I'll be able to work from a studio space, which is on my property, the studio space that all of the workers and our planning, marketing, photography, everything is going to happen right there in that studio space, right near my house. So I'll be able to still have my kids in the early years, raise the kids, and be a full-time businesswoman at the same time. That's where I see myself in 3 years, is beginning that. So every step along the way that we're making is me pushing for the girls that I work with to take on more responsibility and be able to carry more weight in the studio so that I can step back over the next 3 years, more and more of the production side of things, and focus just on being a mom, marketing, and running a brand. Yeah, that's my 3-year goal.
Cool. I'm sure Kieran knows he's already got a keeper, but that's a great 3-year plan, I got to say. And if you don't have it, sounds like you've definitely got it visualized. If you don't have it written down or saved anywhere, then it's been an honor to have it logged right here. You can always come back and listen to this interview for self-inspiration.
Just in case I forget.
Becca, can you give an example of something that you wish you would have done differently looking back at your business life?
I honestly wish that instead of wasting my first 2 or 3 years that I was working in fashion, thinking that I had to follow this pre-set up plan to be a part of that industry, that I had begun to carve my own path from the beginning. We feel that there's such a straight line from aspiring designer or aspiring fashion person to fashion school, to internship, to working in the industry. And I felt that I had to follow that line. I had to follow each step along the way to make sure I'd make it in the fashion industry. I wish that I would have known at 17 and 18 that I could just start carving my own path from the beginning, and that I could still make it as an entrepreneur and working in the fashion industry without having to follow that step-by-step concrete process. Mm-hmm. I think I would have been able to much earlier take that step back and think about who I really want to be and what I really want to offer to the world, instead of thinking that, okay, if I want to be in this industry, I need to do these things, right?
Right.
And so I kind of wish, looking back, if I'd had that knowledge, I think I would already be, 5 to 10 years into Twig and Pearl instead of 3 years into Twig and Pearl.
Right. Yeah. So anyone listening can take that and pay it forward. However, it sounds like for you, that's one thing that you wish you would have done differently, but at the end of the day, it did still bring you to where you're at. And you made me think of, there's a famous philosopher, a famous quote out there. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to quote it as anonymous because I can't remember exactly who said it. But basically the idea, the quote goes, in order to be free, you have to be a slave first, because if you're kind of, in a system, or excuse me, you have to be free, then you have to be in a slave or in a system. And then after that exit is when you're truly free again. So it sounds like you kind of entered into that quote unquote jail, realized, okay, this isn't what I want. Yeah. And then you freed yourself.
No, I totally agree. And I think it's even the concept of working in an industry before you become a leader in the industry. Every time that someone launches a product or builds a business, it's important to have worked in every area of that business before you become fully leader in the forefront, because then you've experienced all of that, you've done all of those jobs, and you have a personal insight into each level and each step of that business, right? Everything from production through to final marketing and sale of a product. So I guess for me, yeah, that in the beginning, if I hadn't have worked so much in actually designing and creating handbags one by one, then I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have the same construction and pattern making knowledge that I do today. So those years were really important, but I wish I would have followed more heavily my own path instead of following a dream with a step-by-step plan to be a part of a fashion industry, right?
Right. Okay. So we've got 3 fun questions for you here to wrap this interview up. And I think for these 3 answers, you can answer them in Creole. So
okay.
That'll make it a little bit more fun. And the 3 questions I have for you are: 1, what is your favorite thing about living in Roaring Creek? 2, what is your favorite flavor ideal? For anyone listening that doesn't know what that is, it's kind of like a little frozen popsicle that you get at the Chinese man shop. And your dream country to go to. I originally had for a fashion show, but now after kind of getting to talk to you a little bit more, I would say your dream country to go to and market or share Twig and Pearl.
Okay. So my favorite thing about living in Roaring Creek, I love that the creek is literally a 5-minute walk from my house. I can go and just jump in clear, freezing cold creek, and just it's kind of a serene, peaceful place that I grew up going to, and I still go to whenever I get a chance. My favorite flavor of ideal, I have to answer this one in Creole, sugar cane. You ever tried sugar cane?
Oh man, I can't remember what flavors I had. I think I would just whatever.
I guess it's sugar corn, so sugar cane, sugar corn. It's like a sweet corn and cream blended together and frozen into the little baggie as an ideal. It's the best thing ever. They make it in popsicles and in ideals. I could live on sugar corn ideals. I realized I'd be completely nutritionally deprived, but sugar cane ideals, I could live on those. And then country I'd want to go to, I think specifically to market Twig and Pearl. I mean, I've been there before, but specifically to market and to move more of Twig and Pearl's influence in sales over to. I'd love to actually span a bit more into Central and South America, but also the UK. I feel like we'd really sell well in a UK marketplace. As far as a country I'd love to just travel to that I've never been to at all, I really, really want to go to Ethiopia.
Wow. Okay. For what reason?
I've looked at so many photos, and there's this beautiful place. I think it's called Lalibela. It's basically these Orthodox church ruins that they've dug up from underground, and people make pilgrimages every year there, and it's this really beautiful, almost ceremonial thing, and I've always wanted to see that. But on top of that, it's kind of everything about Ethiopia is kind of this anti-Western idea of Africa. Everything that we've taught of what Africa looks like and feels like, Ethiopia is this amazing, beautiful place that is not at all what everyone in North America has been taught that Africa is. And so I kind of want to go and experience it for myself.
Cool. I'm sure any Ethiopians listening are agreeing with you and nodding their head right now as well. So thank you for that. Rebecca, what is the best way anyone can get in touch with you after this interview?
hello@twigandpearl.com.
Boom. There you go.
The best way. So just hello, like you're waving hello at someone, hello@twigandpearl.com. You can reach me there. And Instagram and Facebook, we are Twig and Pearl, AND, spell out, and Twig and Pearl. Instagram, we are a lot more active on. So follow us on Instagram, Twig and Pearl, or myself personally, Rebecca Stirm.
Cool. And speaking of being active on Instagram, I think moving forward, people can tune into your Instagram channel every Tuesday to interact with you live?
Yeah, on Tuesdays, we do a Talk to Me Tuesday. So it's kind of our opportunity to connect with our customers, start conversations, start some dialogue, and really get to know who our followers are. So Talk to Me Tuesdays. Hopefully we see you guys there.
Thank you. All right, guys, this has been an amazing episode of Dream Chasers with Rebecca Stirm of Twig and Pearl. Rebecca, thank you for joining us. I guess I should say any final parting words for the listeners?
Come to Belize. It's literally the most beautiful country in the world.
I agree.
Adam knows. Adam can vouch for it.
That's right. And I actually do have some connections with travel and resorts. I'm sure Rebecca does too. So yeah, anyone that wants to know about that, feel free to buzz me. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. Remember, in all you think, say, and do, take it to the next level.